All right, take two, boys and gals. Fun fact, your boy recorded this before, but unfortunately, my hard drive stopped working. So, I lost the footage. So, let's try this again. I am Ashen from Ashen Phoenix Games, or in other communities, know me as Jason, Jace, John, Joe, Mark, Silver, which is very relevant today. So let's just start. Let's just for this channel, let's stick with Ashen, huh? Since Ashen Phoenix Games, you get the point. You get the point. Today, I made a game in a week, and that was the most difficult thing I've ever had to do. Anyway, let's get right into it. So, I just bought tools, and after realizing that I've never used them before, and I have to learn them, I decided I'm going to make a game in a week and I'm going to make a video about it. So, the tools that I'm using today are Game Creator 2, Playmaker, and Pyomi Shader. Pyomi Shader, for those who don't know, is a shader for VR chat, such as the one that this model uses. And I decided to use that in the game. Now, I talked with the owner of Pyomi. He said it's chill to use it in my games. I want to put it in my game that I'm putting on Steam. Name pending. And so, before I make an entire game that's going up on Steam that will probably use hundreds and hundreds of materials with Pyomi Shader, I decided to cover my bases first and make a small game in a week to show that it does work. So, the first thing is, the reason I'm doing this is because, there's a YouTuber called Thomas Brush. Put a picture of Thomas Brush right here. Now, Thomas Brush has a little course called Full-Time Game Dev. It's one of those online courses where you pay for it, and the person basically tells you how to do a thing. It's like college, but not hundreds and thousands of dollars. Now, Thomas said there's one thing you should always do. Make a crappy game. So that way you know what it's like to start a game and finish it. If you can, try to find a clip to show you all what I'm talking about. And if I can't find one,
No.
or it's part of the course, which I'm assuming I'm not allowed to show any videos from the course. If you can't, that's fine, but clip.
No.
Anyway, after that, now, wait a minute. Let's back up for a minute. Number one, let's make a disclaimer here. I have made a crappy game and put it on itch before. It's called Rehabilitation. Put a screen behind me of it. It was a walking simulator where you turn machines on and then you complete the game. It was terrible. The AI didn't even work. The monsters were way too slow. The game was shit, which was kind of the point. But this game, I was going to make for my community. Let me get into that. Now, for those who don't know, I run a VR chat roleplay called Black Wolves Rebellion and Cosmic Veil. But in Black Wolves, there was a character named Silver, an old man who did a thing, fought Caleb, the big baddie, and that was never on screen in the session. And so when I was brainstorming what this game that I was going to make in a week was going to be, my wife gave me the idea, what if you do this fight between Silver and Caleb? After all, they never saw what happened with that. And she's absolutely right. And so I took my wife's idea and I ran with it. Originally, she said that I should make the game in 30 days instead of a week. That a week wasn't enough. And I said, pshaw, I could do it in a week. And I proceeded to learn that my wife was right. I feel like that's gonna be. I feel like that's the motto of a lot of married guys out there. But married guys out there, listen to your wife. Listen to your wife, because oh my God, was she right? And it was and this has been the most. This was the most difficult ordeal I've ever had to make, and I have been working on Black Wolves for 5 years. So let's get into let's get into the whole process, huh? So, yeah, I got the models in there. For Silver, I just took Silver and Caleb from old projects, Avatar projects, because, quite frankly, Silver, as of this recording, I have retired the character from VRChat Roleplay. And Caleb, I have since made a new model, but because it was an in-character model change, I just used his older model, because his older model is the model that he was when this event happened. So to keep the continuity intact, I decided to use the old model, which took me a bit of finding, but I found him. So after that, I had to brainstorm the idea. The original idea was going to be Silver had a shotgun blast that stunned Caleb, a buff that makes him do more damage and makes him tougher, like with a health regeneration, a shroud that made him cough and get damaged over time, and an ultimate. Now, the ultimate was going to be a Silver Flash, which is essentially a punch, and it like does a big wave of energy forward. It was going to be real cinematic shit, camera changing like some games like Genshin does. And boy howdy, I got a little too ambitious there, but I'll explain that later. First, I got the locomotion. After that, I got the locomotion down for Silver, as you can see behind me. And once that happened, once I got the locomotion down, I got the attacks down. A light attack and a heavy attack. Later on, I learned that you can mix the combos together, which is something I tried to make work, but failed to do so. And so after that, I kind of realized that bug is just going to become a feature. The bug where you can mix the combos together anyway. That was the best little happy accident ever. Even though I was trying to do that and failed to, but the fun fact, the way that the combos mix is kind of just built into the Game Creator 2 melee assets, so I guess I was just wasting my time. Other than that, next was to get his abilities working. This took 3 days. Because I did not know how to do abilities, and I have an ability asset for Game Creator. But unfortunately for me, for the shotgun, to make it function properly, I would have needed the shooter module, something I don't have because it's $80 goddamn. And also, I tried doing that using the spell system, like the ability system, only to realize that the type of particle I used was not compatible, at least from what I was able to try and figure out. However, in hindsight, I could have just made it cast a ability, like a fireball or something instead, and it probably would have worked, but I only realized that just now, in this very second, that I could have just changed the particle. Anyway, me realizing I'm stupid aside, after trying to get the abilities working, I decided to take a break, drink alcohol, and play zombies with the boys. And then after that, I went to bed after having a midlife crisis. I try hard. You know, my whole life, I just, always had this instinctive desire to create meaningful stories that touch people's hearts. I remember I was 13 years old. It was 2013, and I watched a YouTuber play through The Last of Us. And God, that opening just was crazy. That opening was just soul crushing. Boy, that just sparked something in me. It was amazing. And then I played Call of Duty Zombies and that intricate lore where No matter, the harder you look, the more stuff you find, and the deeper shit goes. I was always interested in stories like that, you know, like even as a kid, you know, watching shows like Power Rangers Dino Thunder and, you know, Ben 10 and all those other cartoons with stories. I was always so interested in those. People are inherently storytelling creatures. And nothing is more wonderful than just sitting down, escaping reality, and just being encapsulated in this grand adventure of a story, whether it's a dark story like, you know, like a sad anime is like, you know, like Kame ga Kill or Angel Beats. Or if it's an upbeat cartoon like fucking, I don't know, Steven Universe or whatever. There's always an interesting story to be told. And that is what drew me to just creating stories. You know, for a while, you know, I thought I wasn't talented enough to make games, so I decided to do something more, you know, grounded, like being an author, writing a book, or being a movie director. And I just realized pretty quickly that those are a little bit too out of my grasp, but they also didn't feel right to me. It wasn't calling to me as much as game development did. For the longest time, I learned Unreal Engine, but I always found that to be a little too hard to learn. And what else? I just wasn't learning right. I wasn't in the right place. And then later on in my long struggle of a life, I found Unity. Granted, I found Unity through VR chat once my main avatar was deleted, that I like to use when I hung out with my friends in VR chat. And so once that creator deleted that avatar, I was like, oh, well, now I gotta find something else. I gotta find something new. And so I did. I made it myself. Well, first I commissioned somebody and the model was shit, so I decided to do it myself then. And when I started learning Unity with avatar creation, I realized that I found my engine. I found the game engine that just speaks to me. I always loved the blueprint system with the Unreal Engine, but then I found Playmaker and everything started to make sense. I finally knew what I wanted to do. And now I am approaching Season 2 of Black Wolves. I am making a game, and my first video is me making a game about a story that just kind of blew up. This community that I started in 2021, Black Wolves. A roleplay in VR chat that I made just solely on a whim was the best decision I ever made. Because back then, before, I didn't have the confidence I do now, but now I have that confidence. Now I have the confidence I need to do what I want to do. 5 years, almost 5 years, I've been doing Black Wolves, and now that I've started Season 2, I feel like a new chapter is beginning where I am in a spot where I have the confidence to finally make games for a living. Granted, I'm not doing that now, but that's the dream. Making games for a living. Watching people get encapsulated in a story that is just so interesting. That's what I want to do for a living. Just making people just making people happy through the stories that I write. And in Black Wolves, I've already been doing that, and I am blessed to have the community of Black Wolves by my side. And even when I finally start making games for a living and I don't have time for Black Wolves anymore, the number one thing is I will always remember where I started. I will never be as grateful as I am without that community. Although, this video shouldn't be just sappy shit. Midlife crisis over. Just wanted to get real for a second from my first video. Anyway, moving on. Caleb's AI. This took 75% of the week that I had. I have never made an AI system before. Before, I just either used Emerald AI or made it a very basic walk to player and attack AI, which for most games is kind of probably the best approach in hindsight. But for bosses, that's a little more complicated. You gotta give windows of attacking. So I spent 2 whole days trying to make him strafe. But the original plan for him was to have him spawning little mini Calebs. Like mini clones made of energy. The other plan was for him to summon a swarm of meteors. And then a phase 2 where he powered up and even put up a shield and had Electrocorp soldiers attack Silver. A homing missile attack, all types of cool shit like that. I only ended up getting 2 of those abilities working in the finished game, but more on that later. Like I said, this is the most difficult thing I've ever done. First, I tried doing it using triggers, which I hopefully will find comb through a video of me doing that. From there, I proceeded to try using behavior tree. Failed miserably the first time because I refused to look at tutorials when I probably should have. And then I proceeded to get a help from this guy on the Game Creator Discord. And we proceeded to spend the entire day talking with him, giving me a behavior tree that he made in his game. And then while I was waiting for him to explain to me how to use his, I just decided to reverse engineer my own using his. Like I said, turns out seeing the finished product and reverse engineering or a tutorial video is probably the way I should have done it in the first place. Would have saved me 2 days of a headache. And also, during those 2 days, I also made him strafe left and right. I spent 2 days trying to make that happen, and I realized later on, with the way I set up the behavior tree, for some reason, out of all of the melee attacks, the random selector frequently made him strafe left and right. I removed the ability for him to strafe right, and I just made him strafe left sometimes, and then instead of strafing right, I made him block. And then, when I realized I only had 1 day left, I decided to downsize the game. I realized that giving myself a week to make a game using tools I've never used before, fun fact, not the best idea. So I removed the shotgun blast, I removed the shroud, I removed the ultimate of Silver Flash, and then I only left the void buff. I also removed the health and damage system for Caleb, so then I just had to make the Meteor Swarm a stun lock. I regret doing that. I should have just made it a melee game instead of giving Caleb an ability. I regret that. My bad. Basically, by the time I finished the game, after recording lines for a while, I realized that I also had to cut the 4 cutscenes I was going to do. I was going to do a majority of them in VR chat, and then I realized that would have taken probably a couple days worth of editing, and I don't have that kind of time. So, I just said fuck it, and I just went all in. I just put the lines during the dialogue, removed the cutscenes entirely, and I built the game with only 10 minutes to spare. I started building the game at 11:30 p.m. on Monday, which is when I started the week prior. So, I only had till midnight of that Monday. The biggest issue I had that made it where I only had 10 minutes to spare is because Pyomi, fun fact, in VR chat, when you build an avatar, it will automatically lock the materials. Fun fact for you, Pyomi doesn't come with that when you're building a game. So, I had to lock them manually. And I learned that the hard way. Because, fun fact, when it's Caleb's boss, little clone boss thing, he's not in the scene by default. He spawns in, he stays in the level for 30 seconds, and then it destroys the object, removing it from the scene entirely for optimization. Unfortunately, that means I forgot to lock the material. So when I first built the game and I play tested it for like a couple minutes, I realized pretty quickly on that I needed to lock his materials too. So I locked his materials, and then I built it again, and then by the time the game was in a playable state, it was 11:50 p.m. on Monday, and I only had 10 minutes left to make it work. And now that the game's finished, I needed to have somebody be my bitch. I mean play it. So, meet Viper. Viper is a very, very close friend of mine, and also is now going to be the bitch that I make play my games when I finish them. The games, you know, like I made a game in a week or whatever time frame. So when I make games going forward, and I need somebody to play test it, expect Viper a lot in these videos going forward. Anyways, I had them play it. And here's the video of them playing it. You're an absolute unit. I actually have something to actually, like, fucking put in a video of me actually, like, witnessing gameplay.
Of course,
You're damn fucking Skippy, I'm an absolute unit.
There's a real homie. I'm gonna have to, like, put a big-ass fucking block to the left of the fucking screen, just blocking out every single name in my DMs. And then again, nobody interesting is in my DMs, other than maybe a person I won't say, because I don't have to bleep it out, and I don't know how to bleep things out.
Alright, let me know when you're ready.
I was born ready.
I will have to be quick, because, you know, it instantly puts you in combat.
Couldn't you know, just screen share the... Okay, well, that works. I fucking cringed hearing myself. You know, I anchored that fucking subtitles to the bottom of the screen. What the fuck is it doing in the middle? I'm mad. Wait, I could just totally use this as just me audibly talking about the process.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about with the rain thing. I can't move or, like, strafe out of it.
Yeah, definitely, like... My way to combat that was the Void buff, because the Void buff, like, kind of removes the reaction from the melee attack.
I will say, it's also kind of really hard to hear you. The game is pretty loud.
That's fair.
But...
we just get closer. We get closer. There we go. Oh my god. Okay. So, I'm just gonna say this out loud now. I thought to myself, man, I should really make a game in a week, because my full-time... I gave money to a successful indie game developer so he could teach me how to make games, and I'm in a Discord, and one of the things he said is, make a crappy game. I should really find the video where he says, make a crappy game, and then just clip that, and put that just in the video. But yeah, no.
You definitely, I will say, you definitely will want to try to make, like, how Devil May Cry has the thing where you can lock on to a target.
I actually tried to get that working, and I realized I only had half an hour until my time limit was up, so I was like, fuck. I almost had it working. Like, the issue I had was I had to make a quick decision of either make it only where you're locked onto Caleb, making it more difficult to, like, attack the clone, mind you, or just keep it like it is. And I decided to keep it like it is because the bug I ran into was I could not make it swap between camera shots, between third person like you're doing right now and lock on. So honestly, the main reason why the game is not as good as I thought I could have made it is because turns out a week is a lot more cutting it close than I thought. Originally, Amber was like, oh, you know, give yourself a month. And in my head, I was like, well, that doesn't make a video. I gave myself a week because I was like, hey, I'm using pre-made assets. Maybe it'll be easy. Visual scripting is not easy, and I've learned that the hard way. I actually had a gas cloud where, like, Silver would, like, produce a gas cloud that would, like, make, like, Caleb...
I will say one thing you will want to fix, if you, like, keep spamming attack and block when you're staggered in there, you can actually hit Caleb and block them, too. Or, like, if the clone is... during that, you can block it if you time it right.
Yeah, like, basically this is what I did, is like, what if I take these assets and these tools I've never fucking touched before, and what if I made a game in a week? And so I had to self-teach myself every single aspect of this game. From replacing the locomotion, which, fun fact, I am so fucking impressed on how smooth Silver is looking in his animations, because in Unity, it looked horrible. Oh wow, Viper, you're using the other combo. I realize now that this is the last time anyone's gonna ever see this particular Caleb model ever again, because Caleb has a new model look now. Well, this is a good swan song for this version of Caleb's model. Holy shit, you're right! The meteor swarm doesn't work anymore. Oh, you know what? I know exactly why it's not working anymore. The Phase 2 version has a different animation path. So the animation isn't playing it anymore because it's trying to spawn the Actually, no. It's trying to spawn the meteor swarm from the first phase model for Caleb, and in the code, I made it delete the previous version for optimization. That's why the meteor swarm isn't working, because I am a dumb bitch who forgot to repath the new meteor swarm with the phase 2. Okay, well, that makes sense. Also, be careful, don't go near the edge. I got stuck when I went over there. Huh. Looks like you ran out of stamina. An invisible stat I was not able to fucking show. Yes, I'm just gonna sit here for a while, since this is B-roll footage right here. I hope you know that you're now going to be part of my videos, because every time I launch a game, I'm probably just gonna give it to you. And yet Viper does not hear what they are about to go through with me, with my bullshit. Although my next game is the next small game I'm gonna make is a horror game. That will be fun. Especially it makes Viper here play that.
Okay. You're still recording, right?
I absolutely am.
Alright, so basically, obviously, I don't know how well it picked up because of the game, how loud the game is, but...
It was very low on my end because copyright music.
Yeah. Okay, so definitely everything I told you in DMs. Need to have settings for like sensitivity and stuff, because I was moving my mouse like an inch and I was basically doing a full 360.
Yeah, no, definitely. Let me tell you what the game was gonna be. before I
Okay.
realized the fucking monumental task I was gonna do. Because turns out,
Mhm.
fun fact, everyone, turns out if you give yourself a week to make a game using tools that you've never fucking used before, you're gonna have to cut some corners if you're gonna make it within that time
Well,
frame.
yeah. I
The
mean,
original game
again,
was gonna
again,
go ahead.
for me, it's like it's good. To me, it's still a really it's still pretty good for what it was for a week.
Oh yeah, no, honestly, I'm impressed I made it that far enough where I could actually build the fucking game.
And I mean, you you knew this. I think everyone will know this when whoever you have play tested. It's
You're
gonna have
literally the
bugs.
only
You're gonna have glitches. All that.
you're one of two people that I have actually given the game to, and you're probably going to be the only person in the video.
Fair enough.
Let me tell you what the game was going to
But
be.
all right.
So at first it was just going to be a whole thing where Silver and Caleb, they both have a health bar. You know, there was going to be multiple abilities where Silver's one was going to be his shotgun blast that stuns Caleb, his number two that increases his damage, which is what Void Buff was going to be.
Uh-huh.
Number three is like a shroud that was either I was kind of undecided. It was either going to be a gas that like hurts him over time or something that blinds him and he doesn't know where Silver is and you can like sneak up behind him and do a finisher. And then each attack and thing you do will build the rage meter that lets you do Silver Flash that like deals a chunk of damage.
Yeah.
And then when you reach the halfway point, you would have done a finisher, got to the next phase and everything, and then all that good stuff. There was going to be cutscenes and everything.
Yeah.
But that was me thinking that Game Creator 2 was an easy fucking tool. And the number one reason I had to cut as much as I did is because, number one, listen, Silver's part was easy.
Yeah.
Making his animation, making him walk around, making him attack, that was easy. It comes out of the box like that. All I had to do was replace the animations and edit some fucking values.
Mm-hmm.
Caleb, though, I got the locomotion working fucking easy because all I did was replace the animations and then add his attacks, his melee attacks. The part that took me as long as I did, causing me to cut as many corners as I did, is because making an AI enemy is the most complicated part of making a hack and slash game. That was the most complicated shit I've ever had to make. 25%, honestly, one of the biggest things I would have done instead of like with my game, if I like honestly, if I could do it again, I would not waste as much time as I did on making him strafe left and right because in the like from what I saw in the gameplay, he wasn't strafing that much.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a minimal kind of thing. I would have had to make that kind of system if it was like you were fighting groups of enemies, which also was going to be a thing where he summons LectorCorp soldiers, he summons more than just one clone. It was just going to be a group of tiny clones, but
yeah,
I realized that a group melee combat was way too fucking ambitious for the melee AI that I was learning. So
yeah,
first thing I did is I cut Silver's abilities out because the number one thing I couldn't do is, for the life of me, I could not make the two systems interact with each other. I could not make Silver's attacks interact with Caleb for shit. I was lucky enough to get the void buff working. But
yeah,
that's because I didn't know what I was doing. What the why is this fucking phone case on my desk anyway? But this was a great learning experience for me. Which honestly, at this part, by the way, future me, whoever's editing this, you can cut most of my ranting out here because I'll be doing that in the. Anyways, cutting off there because a lot of it is just me yapping, and also there's copyrighted music in the finished game. Listen, I didn't have the time to find a good soundtrack, and I'm picky. All right, and it ended up being like one of the best parts of the game is the soundtrack. Anyway, so ignoring the certain bugs, like for example there being a hole in the map and then a couple other bugs that I don't remember right now, I asked 3 questions. Do you prefer phase 1 or 2 of Caleb's boss fight? What do you think of the combo system? And are there any other notes you have? Viper's answers are the following. For question 1 of preferring phase 1 or 2, Viper preferred phase 2, but that was because the meteor rain didn't work. More on that on question 3. Question 2, what did you think of the combo system? Well, Viper didn't really use the combo, the heavy attack combo, for the first go of the game. They were just kind of spam clicking. However, when they played it the second time, which is the recording you saw before, they used it and they liked it. The other notes, which also fun fact, Viper the first time was in a call and screen shared the entire game with not only one of my devs, but also a person who wasn't even part of the roleplay, who just kind of saw it from a perspective of somebody who didn't play the game. They both liked it apparently, but that's a different story for a different story for another day. But they thought the meteor rain was a bit unfair. Honestly, because I had to remove the health and damage system, the only thing I could really do for the meteor swarm was to give Silver a knockdown. I should have just removed the meteor rain. If I had to downsize and remove the health and damage system, I should have just removed the abilities altogether, because without health and damage, all I could have done is put Silver in a stun lock. So, my bad. It needed a health system. They said it probably would be cool if I expanded the parry system with like a counter attack. And they loved the story and soundtrack. Now, in general, this is what they said about the game in DMs. And obviously, me watching Viper play the game, you heard their thoughts too, I think. Well, then again, they were silent most of the time because they couldn't hear me because of the music. Another thing I probably would have added if I had more time, volume buttons and mouse sensitivity. Honestly, the only real complaint they had about the game, besides the meteor swarm, was the fact that they were not able to change their sensitivity, which, if I knew how to make settings, I would absolutely agree with them. Other than that, so what I would have done differently, I would have added a parry finisher, like a counterattack, and I would have made it where the clone Caleb, if you parry and counterattack the clone, it would destroy the clone in one shot. I would have made sure to add a health and damage system if I could do this again, with more time, of course. I would have added the abilities that I removed from Silver, and I would have put them there. I would remove the stun lock for Meteor Rain because the health and damage system would be there, so I would just make the Meteor Rain do damage and not stun Silver constantly. And I would have added more abilities to Caleb, so it just didn't seem like he was just attacking relentlessly without any variation. I would add windows during the parry to do a finisher to do more damage to Caleb, which is the counterattack thing I said earlier. I would have added the rage meter with the ultimate attack again, because in the original idea for his ultimate, it would be he does damage, he builds his rage meter, he does the silver flash. John Lecter doing John Lecter things. If you are from the Black Wolves community, you'll know exactly what I'm saying. Make the shotgun an equipable weapon. This is an idea that not only Viper had, but the two people who were watching them play the game the first time said that it could have been some Devil May Cry shit where I could have made him, like, in the middle of the combo, like, do an attack when you swap to the shotgun, like, being able to swap to and from the shotguns. That way there's variation, and, you know, there's some choice. So, yeah, that's what I would have done differently if I had more time. All in all, this game was a very, very... It was a learning experience for sure. And I do not regret it at all. Number one issue that I faced with this game was, honestly, the time limit. When you're on a time limit, it really hurts the overall just quality of the game. Which, honestly, if you see some titles where it was rushed a little too much, a lot of AAA games that are rushed, you can see the dip in quality. And by putting myself on this forced crunch of 1 week, put in perspective how blessed some indie game developers are. the fact that indie game developers are not burdened by crunch. It is a very rough thing putting yourself on a time limit. If I had more time, if I gave myself 30 days like my wife originally said I should give myself, it would have been a much better game. And going forward with my game that I'm going to put on Steam one day, that game, I'm going to make sure I do it right. I do not give myself a time limit. At the end of the day, Rome was not built in a day, and neither are games. If you want to make your game beloved and great, give yourself as much time as you think you need. If you think you can't do it, you can. I have made all the games I've made so far before this video entirely in using Playmaker, Game Creator 2, without needing to write a single line of code. You don't need to know code to make a game. You don't even need to know what you're doing. Because part of perfecting your skill is practice. And in this channel that I am just now starting, I'm going to be doing a lot of these where I make a game in a time frame. Because at the end of the day, think of your skill as a muscle. And you need to exercise that muscle a lot, as much as you can. So, the next game I'm going to make is probably going to be something horror themed, really mix things up. But my games are always going to make sure to have a good, interesting story. Because I'm a big believer in a game always needs a great story. Unless it's like a simple game like Flappy Bird, Angry Birds. All I'm saying is simple games that don't have a story, that's also fine. But I prefer games with a story, that's all. And that's what my game studio is all about. Telling great stories in the form of a game. And with that, I am going to sign off. Now, I'm going to be making more videos on this channel, but this is only game development related. This game was about Black Wolves Rebellion, my community, my VR chat roleplay that I run. I don't know if I said this earlier in the video. I don't remember. But this game's story was about Silver and Caleb, a fight in the Season 1 finale of Black Wolves. Should have said this at the beginning. But if you want to know more about the VR chat roleplay for Silver, put it here, right here. If you want to see my podcasts and RP related stuff, subscribe to this channel. I have put the past podcasts for like roleplay owners for VR chat. I've been doing them on the Black Wolves channel, but now I'm going to start doing them here on this new channel I made, which is going to basically be, VTuber. Hello. So I'm going to put them here. It non-RP and out of character RP and not game development related stuff, I'm going to put here. However, I'm probably still going to be posting the podcast here and here. But if you want to see Black Wolf sessions, put it here. If you want other stuff, like, if I play a game and I post it on here, or like I said, the podcast I do for roleplay owners, here and here. If you want gaming, here. Other than that, I'm going to also plug my Discord, where you will see polls where you can vote on what video you're going to see next from me. Now, the next video is either going to be me making that horror game I was talking about, or another idea I have. Whatever comes first. Other than that, that's the Discord. These are the channels. Also a Patreon or Ko-fi or whatever the fuck I manage to fucking plug. If you want to support my game development, Patreon or Ko-fi or whatever's above me. Whatever I can get working first. Because at the end of the day, this is the beginning of a long line of videos of me doing game development. Now, other than that, that's about it for me. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe.